Hey, this is Keith. I want to step you through the process of creating a new assignment and a new rubric. So this is the instructor home. This is where you land when you first log into the site. And at the bottom, you'll see you can add an assignment for, and then you pick whichever course you want to add the assignment for. Click Add Assignment, and here's the Create screen for new assignments. I'm going to give the assignment a title. I'm going to call this my first semester final. And the rubric selection right now only has one option, and that is create a new rubric on the next screen. Eventually, we're going to support having a rubric library where you can import a pre-existing rubric to give you a head start. You'll also be able to pull in one of your old rubrics from a previous assignment and clone that one in for the new assignment. Those are all on my to-do list, but they're not quite ready yet. And due date and max point value, those are optional. If you click on due date, you get this nice calendar interface. So let's say I'm horrible and my assignment is due on Christmas Day. And the due time defaults to 11:59 p.m. just because that's the time I always used. You can specify whatever time you like. And max point value, if we specify a point value, the grading app will ask you to enter a score for each student as you finish grading each essay. If you leave this blank, it won't ask you for the score. But sure, let's say this is worth 100 points. So we create the assignment, and now we need to create the rubric. You can give the rubric a name. By default, it inserts a name based on the name of this assignment. And what we need to start with is specifying quality levels for the rubric. These are the columns of a traditional rubric. You have to have at least 3 quality levels, though you can go up to 5. I know that a lot of schools use a rubric that has 6 or 7 or possibly even more columns, and we limit you to 5, partially because I think there's a law of diminishing returns at work once you go beyond 5 quality levels. I think it gets very difficult to make those distinctions between, what's a level 6 versus a level 7, in these massive rubrics. There's also a practical issue in that anything beyond 5 just gets really cramped when you're looking at it in the grading app, the way that we've designed things. So we'll revisit this as time goes on. If you really need more than 5 quality levels, definitely let me know. And one of the new features that I've just added today is you can choose the direction of the quality levels. So do they start best to worst, where the left-hand side of the rubric is the good side, or do they progress worst to best, where you want to see your students clumped up on the right side of the rubric? So let's say it's worst to best. Now, you need to label each quality level with something that is meaningful for you and your students. Some people just say level 1, 2, 3, 4. Since we're going worst to best, we could also call it awful to, amazing. That's totally up to you. And, I don't know what's between awful and amazing. I'm just going to say level 2 and level 3. But you can label these whatever you like. And so in this example, I'm only going to have 4 quality levels, worst to best. Okay. Now that the columns are set, we need to specify the rows of the rubric, the core elements. These are the items that we're looking to evaluate in each paper for this assignment, and each core element needs to specify a scope. So is the element a sentence level item, is it a paragraph level item, or is it something that applies to the entire document? So, here's an example. A thesis is a sentence level item that we're going to evaluate. So is evidence. That's sentence level. But if we're going to also evaluate something like paragraph focus, well, that obviously is a paragraph level item. And finally, let's throw in something overall. Let's say we're going to evaluate the student's overall organization throughout the entire paper. So we choose whole document. You can add as many of these core elements as you need to, and by the end of this tutorial, I'll show you how these scope settings play out in the grading app, how it affects the grading app's behavior. So I'm going to create this rubric, And you'll see it generates the traditional looking rubric grid with our labels, and we're progressing from worst to best, and then the rows that we specified in the order that we specified. Okay, so from here we can just click on this detailed assignment view link to view the newly created assignment, and let's upload an essay just so that we can launch the Grader app so you can see how this all comes together. So I'm going to click Add Files, I'm going to grab a document, select it, and upload it. And once you upload a file, it has to do some back-end processing, so it'll take a couple seconds to process the document. You can click this refresh status link to see if it's done. So I'm going to click that, and we're ready to go. And I'm going to launch the grading app. And we'll see how those core elements and the scope settings all come into play in the grading app. So here's our essay. We have the core elements, thesis, and evidence, and remember we specified those as sentence level scoped. So when we drag them over the essay, it's just going to highlight one sentence at a time because they were sentence level scopes. Whereas the paragraph focus, we configured that to be a paragraph level scope. So instead of highlighting individual sentences, it's identifying the entire paragraph. This is a horrible essay apparently because it's one giant paragraph. That's one of my biggest pet peeves. But so we have that distinction between sentence level and paragraph level. And then how about those overall scoped, the whole document scope items? Well, those core elements appear at the end, at the bottom of the essay. So that is the start to finish process of creating an assignment and creating the rubric, and you can now see how that all comes together in the grading app. And then the last thing, because we did specify a max point value, the app does ask you to enter a grade. If you had left the max point value blank in the assignment configuration page, this whole section would just be omitted. Well, let me know if you have any questions. As always, you can just hit the questions and comments button, and I look forward to hearing from you. Thanks.